Hello dear students, I hope you are doing well. And today I'm going to explain for you section 2 from chapter 12, which is a compound. I explained it for you in the previous lesson about elements, and if you read it, you know and what is compound, because before we study compounds, we must know what's elements, because each two, four, three, or more than two elements, they are combining together by a chemical bond. They are producing compounds. So today I want to tell you about how we are making a cake when we are mixing these elements together. We are making cake, and they are chemically changed. We cannot return back these cakes to the original things like sugar, salt, when we putting in it, or water. This is chemically changed. So today we are going to explain what's the meaning of a compound. Compound is a pure substance composed of two or more elements that are chemically combined. In the figure number 1, you see magnesium reacting with oxygen. A compound called magnesium oxide is forming. The compound is a new pure substance. It is different from the elements that make it up. And most of the substances that you see every day are compounds in our life. So compound is a substance made up of atoms of two or more elements joined by chemical bonds. And we have this table familiar compounds and their elements. Some like number 1 table is sodium and the chlorine. These two elements, they are combining together by a chemical bond. We have water, also sugar, combining carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen together, producing sugar. And we have carbon dioxide combining carbon with oxygen, they are bonding together by a chemical bond. And we have the ratio of elements in a compound, because elements do not randomly join in to form a compound, and elements join in a specific ratio according to their mass to form a compound according to their mass. For example, the ratio of mass of hydrogen to mass of oxygen in the water from 1 to 8, okay? The mass ratio can be written as a 1 to 8. And the ratio is also the same, because if this ratio will change it, and maybe this compound is, yeah, it's not a water. And we have properties of compounds, because as we know, properties of compounds, like elements, how elements have properties, also compounds, they have properties like physical properties, such as including melting point, density, and color, and also have a different chemical properties. Some compounds react with acids, okay? Compounds, they are reacting with acids. For example, calcium carbonate found in chalk reacts with acid. We have some other compounds, they are hydrogen peroxide, react when they are exposed to the light. Okay? Students, when I highlight something for you in this video, please keep focus on this, because it's so important, and I will bring it in the exam. Properties, compounds versus elements. A compound has a properties that differ from those of the elements, okay, because we have some elements like sodium chloride or table of salt is made of two very dangerous elements, sodium and chlorine. Sodium reacts violently with the water. Chlorine is a poisonous gas. But when combining these elements forms a harmless compound with unique properties. Sodium chloride is safe for eat, as we know. It is also dissolved without exploding in water. This figure number 2, that produce for us a table of salt by these two elements. They are very dangerous but when they are combining together producing compounds, sodium chloride or table oxide is a white solid. It dissolves easily in water and is safe to eat. Okay. And we have something, another things, breaking down compounds. How we have compounds like something of H2O, we are breaking down these two elements by chemical change. Other compounds breaking down to form simpler compounds instead of elements, they are simpler compounds can then be broken down into elements through more chemical change. For example, carbonic acid is a compound that helps give carbonated beverages. Okay, when we open a carbonate, when you open a carbonated beverage, this one, when you open it, this carbonic acid breaks down into carbon dioxide and water. Okay, as shown in figure number 3, carbon dioxide and water can then be broken down into the current elements such as carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. We're breaking down this carbon dioxide and water into the elements that carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Okay? Methods of breaking down compounds. The only way to break down a compound is through a chemical change. Okay? The only way to breaking down a compound is through a chemical change. Sometimes energy is needed for a chemical change to happen. Two ways to add energy to breaking down a compound are to apply heat and to apply an electric current. For example, we have heating compound of this mercury. This mercury oxide breaks it down into the elements mercury and oxygen. Okay, this is mercury and oxygen. When this mercury oxide exposed to the heat, it will be breaking down into the elements that consist of mercury and oxygen as shown in figure number 3. Okay. In this answer of self-check, please solve it and I will ask you in the meeting what is the compounds can be broken down into what two types of substance. If you read this one, you know what is this question, okay? And when the mercury oxide exposed to the heat, it breaks down into mercury and oxide. It means two types of elements. And as I said, heating mercury oxide causes a chemical change that separates it into the elements mercury and oxygen. We breaking down this type of compound to the elements of mercury and oxygen, okay? And we have what compounds industry. The compounds found in nature are not usually the raw materials needed by industry. Often, these compounds must be broken down to provide elements or other compounds that can be used as a raw material. For example, we have aluminum is used in car and airplanes, but aluminum is not found alone in nature. Aluminum is produced by breaking down the compound aluminum oxide, ammonia, and we have another things. Ammonia is another important compound used in industry, okay? It is used to make fertilize, okay? As we know, we're using ammonia for the fertilizers. Ammonia is made by combining the elements of nitrogen and hydrogen. Okay, ammonia is combination of two elements which is nitrogen and hydrogen. We use this ammonia for the fertilize or the plants. And we have another things compound in nature. We have a protein Proteins are compound found in all living things, as we know. The element nitrogen is one of the elements needed to make a protein. This figure number 5 shows how some no, the figure number 5 shows how some plants get the nitrogen they need. Other plants use nitrogen compounds that are in the soil. Animals get the nitrogen they needed by eating plants or by eating animals that have eaten plants. Okay, by this way they get in their nitrogen. The proteins in the food are broken down as an animal digests the food. The simpler compounds that forms are used by the animal cells to make new proteins. And we have another compound that plays an important role in life is carbon dioxide that was made in your body. Plants take its carbon in the carbon dioxide which is used in the photosynthesis, okay? As we said, plants they have a process called the photosynthesis. Plants use photosynthesis to make compounds called carbohydrates. These carbohydrates can be then broken down for energy through other chemical change by plants or elements. As you know, the figure number 5, the palms on the roots of these pea plants are home to bacteria that forms the compounds from nitrogen in the air. The pea plants makes proteins for these compounds. And we have a summary compounds, a pure substance composed of two or more elements. As I said, chemically they are combined. And this is number 1. Compounds a pure substance composed of two or more elements. Chemically they are combined. Number 2, elements that form a compound always combine in a specific ratio according to their mass. According to their mass, they are combining because elements they are not combining together randomly to form a compound. Always combine these two elements. They have a specific ratio according to their mass. Number 3, each compound has a unique set of physical and chemical properties that differ from those of the elements that make up the compound. And we have number 4, compounds can be broken down into simpler substances only by chemical change. And the elements, we have what? We have these questions. I will ask you these questions of the key terms, inshallah, in the meeting, students. And after the compounds, we have what? We have section 3, which is last section in the chapter 12, which is mixtures. Mixture, we have elements, compound, and mixture. And also mixture, we have they have a properties. All mixture, even pizza, share certain properties. A mixture is a combination of two or more substances that are not chemically combined. It's unlike the compounds. Compounds, they are two elements or more. They are combining together by chemical bonds. They are chemically combined, but in the element mixture, they are not chemically combined. When two or more materials are put together, they form a mixture. If they do not react to form a compound, for example, cheese and tomato sauce do not react when they are used to make a pizza. So a pizza is a mixture, as shown in this figure number. This pizza is mixture of the some two or more elements. They are not chemically combining like compounds. A mixture is a combination of two or more substances that are not chemically combined. Why do substances in a mixture keep their identities? I want these answers of self-check from you students, please. And figure number 2, common ways to separate mixtures, okay? If we separate the mixtures together, we have some common ways they are used. We have ways that we say to separate the mixtures. We have what? Number one, distillation is a process that separates the mixtures based on the boiling points of the components. Here we have in this type of the pure water at right is being distilled from a salt water mixture. Outlet distillation is also used to separate crude oil into a components such as gasoline and kerosene. We have another thing, a magnet can be used to separate a mixture of the elements iron and aluminum, because iron is attracted to the magnet but aluminum is not, and because of that we use this magnet for the separate of the mixtures. And we have the different parts of blood are separated using a machine called a centrifuge. We use this centrifuge for separating the blood, which is separated. At the bottom we have this serum, and sometimes we have the plasma. In the test tube at right, a layer of plasma rests above a layer of the red blood cell. A centrifuge separates mixture rather than states of the components. Okay, this is the plasma. Okay, and this one shows the separating a mixture of sodium chloride table of salt and sulfur takes more than one step. We have 1, 2, 3. Number 1, in the first step water is added and the mixture is stirred. Salt dissolves in the water, sulfur does not. In the second step, the mixture is poured through a filter. They put a filter paper. The filter traps the solid sulfur. And number 3, we have in the third step, the water is evaporated. The sodium chloride is left behind. Okay. In the third step, the water is evaporated. The sodium chloride is left behind. And this table is the mixture and compound. It means we have difference between the mixture and compounds, made of elements, compounds, or both, made of elements. No change in original properties of components, and we have no change on original properties of components, change in original properties of components, separated by physical means. They are separated, as I said, by chemical means, formed using any ratio of components, formed using a set ratio of components. This difference between compounds and mixture so important, students. And we have the ratio of components in a mixture. A compound is made of elements in a specific mass ratio. And however, the components of a mixture do not need to be mixed in a definite ratio. For example, granite is a mixture made up of three minerals: feldspar, mica, and quartz. Feldspar is pink in color, mica is black, quartz is colorless. Look at the egg-shaped paperweights in figure number 3. These three objects are made of the granite. They are different colors because the granite used in each has different ratio and minerals. And the gray one is made of from the granite that has a more quartz than the other minerals. The gray one, this one, even through the properties of the minerals change, the combination of minerals is always a mixture called a granite. Above summarize the difference between the mixture and compound, and as I we have what? We have solution. Inshallah, I will explain for you solution after this video. Okay, students? And please do your homework. Thank you. Bye bye.